Welcome to TalkNorth.com. Thanks to our longtime producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen. If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. Two promo codes to be aware of. BiteSquad.com. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery free. And go to SodaStick.com, the great local apparel company. Use the promo code YouBetcha to get free shipping on any sized order.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Double S anytime, man.
Turn this thing up. Let's do this.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steven.
Always passionate, always fiery. You're listening to the Strom Sports Show. Take it away, Steven.
So you did start off your morning, afternoon, or night right. Welcome in here to another edition of the Strom Sports Show, episode 60. I'm Steven Strom here. Nice to have you with us today. We've got an action-packed show for you today. I've got Matthew Coller of Score North, ESPN 1500, what it used to be. He'll come on. We'll talk about the Minnesota Vikings. He's been at training camp. He's been at practice. Obviously writes and is the host now on Score North. Does a tremendous job for the Vikings and the Twins. Also, Love It or Leave It is back. Matt Augusta is in the house today. He'll sit down with me, give me 3 topics. Love it, leave it. Very excited for that. And before I even forget, big shout out to my producer, Brandon Morton, Matt Augusta, and my boss, Jim Suhan. If you want to advertise with us, just go on TalkNorth.com. We've got the Minnesota Twins, and we've got top 3. The top 3. I'm a big top 3 guy this month. Top 3 Vikings to draft for fantasy. A lot of times my friends like to bust my chops at during these fantasy drafts. I end up saying, okay, I'm only going to take 1 or 2 Vikings, and then at the end of the night, I've got 6 or 7 of them. But I'm going to be honest here. I'll be unbiased. I'm a big fantasy guy, so I will tell you guys the top 3 Vikings to draft for fantasy, maybe a couple to stay away from, and all that good stuff. But let's first begin here with a quick story. You know, I had a buddy once. He hadn't had a girlfriend in about 5 years. I won't name drop for the poor kid. But he hadn't had a girlfriend in about 5 years. And he finally landed a so-called keeper. You have to imagine, first girlfriend in a long time, definitely reaching. And before this relationship, my buddy was working out every day, losing weight, really on his so-called grind. And you see, a few months into the relationship, I started to see him at the gym less and less. I started to see him eat more and more. When you become too comfortable in a relationship, you run the risk of losing that routine that ultimately got you in that position. The same principle applies to the Minnesota Twins this year. The Twins, first girlfriend in a while, first time in control of the AL Central in a while, had a choice. Are they going to be that sporadic first-place team that gets comfortable? Or are they going to become that mature first-place team that sticks to the same routine, doesn't lose focus, and that's the true test of a great team. The sporadic teams, they get comfortable. The mature ones, they do not. The Patriots do not. The Warriors do not. The Yankees do not. But if you're a sporadic first-place team like the Twins, you get comfortable. And when you develop this comfort, you lose the same focus you had in the beginning of the year. The fundamental part of your game deteriorates. You start relying on the bats too much. The pitching gets sloppy. And it all starts to add up. Same thing in a relationship. When you become too comfortable in a relationship, you start doing things you weren't doing before. And this is just a classic case of becoming too cozy and cute. And over the last few months, the Twins have become too cozy and cute. The Indians have progressively bit into that division lead, quietly getting healthy, attaining players at the trade deadline, and then you have the Twins, who didn't do anything at the trade line besides get Sam Dyson and Sergio Ramo. Big whoop. One would say the Twins peaked too early. Others would say the Indians have elevated their game that much more. Regardless, the Twins have spit up now a 11.5 game lead, and now are fighting for their lives to not play in one of the worst games in sports, and that is called the one-game wildcard playoff. As I record this today, the Twins are up 1.5 games, but we all know how quickly that can change, because it went from 11.5 to them trailing by 0.5 game a few days ago. They still had the lead, 1.5 games, but still, 11.5 games to a half was unexpected. Let me shift to this really quickly. I saw this report a few days ago, and I'm not surprised by it, obviously. And in his fourth training camp, I think it's his fourth, and with no sign of life and no sign of him ever making a significant impact on this team, the Vikings have put Laquon Treadwell on the trade block as he lost the third receiving spot, I'm pretty sure. And now they are trying to get whatever they can for him. That was literally the quote. They put Laquon Treadwell on the trade block, and are trying to get, quote, whatever they can for him. Now, I don't know what they would actually get for him, other than maybe a couple of footballs, maybe some shoulder pads. Let's turn the clock to honesty hour really quickly. When a wide receiver is a first-round pick, hasn't been injured, hasn't had any off-the-field troubles, 56 catches for 517 yards and 1 touchdown, would signal a disappointing rookie season. But that's what Laquon Treadwell has done over 3 seasons. This is a guy the Vikings took with the 23rd pick in the 2016 draft, and he has been a complete disaster. Every offseason is a new excuse. The first one, he didn't learn the plays quick enough. The second one, I got bad people out of my life. What is the third excuse for Laquon Treadwell? The bottom line is there is none. There's no more excuses. He's run out of excuses. And now Chad Beebe, these other guys are starting to jump him in the depth chart. And it's very sad because if you look at him, he's got a lot of talent in him. And that just shows you can have all the physical aspects and gifts that God has given you. But if you don't have it right upstairs and you don't have that mental fortitude and you don't have that focus, you are downright worthless in the NFL. And that's just the bottom line. And that, it's a business. Treadwell is at best the number 5 wide receiver on this depth chart right now. He's behind Diggs, he's behind Thielen, he's behind Beebe, and he's probably behind Jordan Taylor. You never felt like Treadwell got along with guys like Thielen and Diggs. Thielen and Diggs are best friends. And you see them all constantly cheering for them on the sideline, constantly, talking. I never see that with Treadwell. Every time they show the sideline, it would be the receivers, and then Treadwell's not even there. He's not talking. He's not communicating. And it just shows he's not in the game. And I understand when you don't play a lot, it's hard for you to do that. But at least you're in the NFL. You're getting paid. Don't you want it, right? Don't you want to be successful? We talk about Andrew Wiggins. Kind of the same scenario. All this God-given talent. But does he want to be great? In this case, for Laquon Treadwell, do you want to be the third-string wide receiver? And he couldn't even attain that. I look at the draft, and I get this question a lot, actually. Where does Laquon Treadwell rank in terms of first-round bust? And let's go through them very quickly here. So Garrett Bradbury, the latest first-round pick, we're hoping he's going to be very good. I think we're assuming he's going to be very good. He's looking very good. Mike Hughes last year, we saw the impact that he's going to be a good player. He's going to be a nice player. Then we had Laquon Treadwell in 2016. You had Trey Waynes in 2015. Waynes has been up and down, but I think for the most part, he's been a pretty decent corner for this team. You had Teddy Bridgewater in 2014 and Anthony Barr. Anthony Barr has turned into a multiple-time Pro Bowler. You had Xavier Rhodes in 2013. Here's where it gets a little tricky. Sharif Floyd and Cordell Patterson. Now, Cordell Patterson, receiving-wise, yes, he was I guess you can call a bust, but he did so many things in the special teams aspect of things that you overlooked his struggles as a wide receiver. You overlooked, okay, maybe he's so fast, he's so gifted, he can't run very good routes, but you know what? He brings something to the table, You talk about Marcus Sherrills. Marcus Sherrills didn't play cornerback. He had one role on that team. It was to be the punt returner, and he did a really, really good job at it. Once you find your niche in the NFL, you're good. You've got to find it, though. And for Cordell Patterson, that was his niche. And Sharif Floyd, look, maybe you can start putting Sharif Floyd and Laquon Treadwell in that same kind of in that realm. Then you had Harrison Smith in 2012. We know he's the best safety in the league. That's just my opinion. And Matt Khalil, who was a Pro Bowler his rookie year, he fell off the map though, but still made a Pro Bowl. And then 2011. I don't even want to get into this. Okay, I don't even want to get upset this early in the morning. Christian Ponder, which we will not discuss on this show. I will never discuss him on this show. That's fine. I'm not going to get into him. Christian Ponder, Sharif Floyd, and Laquon Treadwell. Who was the worst first-round bust out of all of them? You can make a case for, I think, all three of them, but I think you have to lean towards Laquon Treadwell. Just based on the pure talent that he has in him that we've never seen. And it's very sad. It's very sad to say. We'll talk about it with Matt Coller, though. Matthew's back on here today. I'm very excited to have him on. It's been a while since he's come on the show. Always brings great insight. And he is up next here on episode 60 of the Strom Sports Show. And we're joined here by our regular guest, Matthew Coller, the Vikings reporter for Score North, host of the Purple Daily Show on Score North from 2 to 4 Central Time. You can read his articles on scorenorth.com. Matthew, how's everything? Thanks for joining me and giving me the time today.
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. We are getting closer and closer to football that counts for something.
Yes. I always say that watching preseason is like having non-alcoholic beer. So we are going to get the real taste of beer in a few weeks here. So let's start with the recent trade that I've kind of been pondering, and that is Karre Vedvik, the punter/kicker / utility guy on special teams from Baltimore that the Vikings traded for. I want to get your thoughts on this. It kind of, to me, it looks like Zimmer has either no confidence in one of these guys, Dan Bailey or Matt Weil. What does this mean to you? What does this mean for the Vikings moving forward?
It is interesting that they trade for someone and we're not sure what position they're going to play, right? I mean,
yeah.
I can't remember another trade where we said, wait, is this guy going to be one thing or the other? And in this case, Vedvik will be more than likely the kicker or punter. I just, at this moment, don't know which. And when they initially traded for him, based on the comments that Mike Zimmer made, I thought, okay, this is a lock for him to be the punter because he seems really, Zimmer seems really unenthusiastic about Matt Weil and how he punted so far in camp. And then last year he was, I would say, probably a middle of the pack punter, and they had decent coverage numbers, but it just didn't seem thrilled with that. And Matt Weil has not been a very good holder for Dan Bailey, and that's been a bit of a concern. So that was my initial thought. Okay, this guy's going to punt. But Dan Bailey has just not really been all that great in training camp kicking field goals. It's become a thing that, you know, everybody stops and goes quiet and watches. And just on Friday, he went 3 for 6 and missed some pretty easy field goals. I think the longest attempt was 47 yards, so nothing out of his range. And he was really struggling. So now I think that when it comes to Vedvik in these preseason games, he'll probably kick some field goals, he'll punt, and then they'll make a decision. But you know, Steven, I look at this like it's almost like trying to decide on a baseball player based on one series or something. I mean, you know, if the guy goes, 5 for 10, then that means he's good. If he goes 2 for 10, he's not. I mean, with a baseball player, that would be almost impossible. Well, it's the same thing with a kicker. If they give Vedvik 3 or 4 kicks and he makes them, does that mean that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame? Or if Dan Bailey misses 1 or 2, is he not going to be good this year? So, you know, I don't know. I think it's risky to mess around with a rookie kicker. If I were putting money on it, I would still say that he probably ends up being the punter.
I don't know what has gone on since this Blair Walsh miss, and it is no coincidence. Since that Blair Walsh miss back in the playoffs in 2015, it has just been this roller coaster. It's just been ridiculous. You couldn't make up the kicking problems that this franchise or this team has had since then. You can go back to the Gary Anderson days, but I'm just talking strictly about after 2015. It's like pulling teeth. You cannot find a competent kicker. Especially, Dan Bailey was the most accurate kicker in the league history. And he is struggling right now. So it's mind-blowing. Let's move off to special teams before I really get upset. You wrote an article a few weeks ago about how Gary Kubiak and Kevin Stefanski are planning on using a lot more of C.J. Ham in the run game. And in this day and age, besides from really the Patriots or the 49ers who have Kyle Juszczyk, can this type of style, other than the Patriots, win a Super Bowl in this era, this run first, this, entering this fullback into these sets?
Yeah, I think that it can. And, it's actually funny that it's not super different what they want to do from what the Atlanta Falcons did in 2016 when they had one of the most explosive offenses in NFL history. They weren't necessarily